Rockaways Productions presents The Casey Waters Show, episode 541, Embracing the Unfamiliar, and My Mother's Son. Hello, I'm your host, Casey Waters. Today, I will continue with the last little bit of Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz MD. This is a classic self-help book dealing with the power of positive thinking, among other things. Now I have Whimsy with me. Whimsy's in my face. So later on in the show, it's embracing the unfamiliar and my mother's son. So here, I look at trying out new things, from new foods to new friends to new experiences. Then it's time for my mother's son. Here, I look at myself and some of the qualities I got from my mom's influence, and how I see these qualities in a positive light, and perhaps something worthy to pass down to the next generation. Today's show will feature background footage from Mountain to Sea Trail along the Blue Ridge Parkway. Here, I was hiking the section just north of Graybeard Mountain Overlook. To get there from Asheville, North Carolina, take the Blue Ridge Parkway north. Shortly past the Craggy Gardens Visitors Center, maybe about a half a mile or mile past it, there'll be an overlook on the right. Pull off into this overlook, and then the Mountains to Sea Trail goes off to the left as you head north, going parallel to the parkway and on up into some beautiful blueberry balds with nice views. So now, let's continue with Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz MD. Or in expecting old age and fearing its onset, we may unwittingly do the very things necessary to bring it about. We begin to taper off on both physical and mental activity, cutting out practically all vigorous physical activity. We tend to lose some of the flexibility of our joints. Lack of exercise causes our capillaries to constrict and virtually disappear, and the supply of life-giving blood through our tissues is drastically curtailed. Vigorous exercise is necessary to dilate the capillaries that feed all body tissues and remove waste products. Dr. Shelley has cultivated animal cell cultures within a living animal's body by implanting a hollow tube. For some unknown reason, biologically new and young cells form inside this tube. Untended, however, they die within a month. However, if the fluid in the tube is washed daily and waste products removed, the cells live indefinitely. They remain eternally young and neither age nor die. Now, let's go to page 281 of Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz MD. It is not retiring from a job that kills these men. It is retiring from life. It is the feeling of uselessness, of being washed up, the dampening of self-esteem, courage, and self-confidence, which our present attitudes of society help to encourage. We need to know that these are outmoded and unscientific concepts. Some 50 years ago, psychologists thought that man's mental powers reached their peak at the age of 25 and then began a gradual decline. The latest findings show that a man reaches his peak mentally somewhere around the age of 35 and maintains the same level until well past 70. Such nonsense as "you can't teach an old dog new tricks" still persists, despite the fact that numerous researchers have shown that learning ability is about as good at 70 as it is at 17. Now it is time for embracing the unfamiliar and my mother's son. Here I look at trying new things, from new food to finding new friends to other new experiences. Then it's on to my mother's son. Here I look at myself and the positive qualities that I acquired from my mom, from her good influence, and how some of these qualities might be worthy of being passed down to the next generation. So, let's jump in. Embracing the unfamiliar. A difficult task often, especially if you're shy or used to doing certain things in a certain way. Well, sometimes it is time to break up the old pattern and try something new. Well, this sometimes has several benefits, from perhaps mental acuity as you learn new things or learn to adjust, and perhaps even helping with your overall happiness. Well, if it's something you enjoy. Well, if it's unfamiliar, who knows? You might enjoy it. You might like it. You might hate it. It might be awful. Who knows? It's all a gamble. But to get out of the same old situation, sometimes you just gotta embrace the unfamiliar and try something new. So, well, let's dive into food. I guess that's something we all can relate to. Whether we have a few friends or a lot of friends, whether we're very entertained or very bored, we still need food. And you might think that's an easy thing. Well, if it is, lucky you. Sometimes finding good food can be a little difficult. Yeah. Well, we have to think of, well, a lot of people are on a budget, don't have much money to spend for food. And we often have to feed several people. So, how do we do all this? Well, we want good, nutritious food. Well, perhaps easier said than done, unfortunately. Especially when going to the grocery store. I mean, we might be used to or familiar soup that we all grew up on. It was nutritious. It was a staple of our diet. But now, the same brand with the ubiquitous white and red striped cans. Well, gee, now it all has garlic in it, doesn't it? And that garlic tastes a little funny. I think it's poison. Well, maybe not poison outright, but probably not good for you. It's cheap Chinese garlic. Doesn't even taste quite like garlic. Maybe there's other things in it too. The flavor takes over the whole soup. It ruins it. Everything else in it might be pretty good, but that cheap Chinese garlic makes it all bad. Oh, unfortunately, it goes far beyond soup. The cheap Chinese garlic is in Indian food often, and many other kinds of food. Check the ingredients. Look for that garlic. If it's there, you might not want to eat it unless you know it's made with good American garlic or some other good garlic. Often it's unspecified, of course. Well, you know from the taste. If it doesn't taste right, it isn't. Just go with that. And so we got all this horrible food with this nasty garlic. So we got to keep searching and searching. Well, maybe some produce is good, sure. It doesn't have garlic, but instead it might have pesticides. Well, we keep searching on and on. The meat has hormones and antibodies in it. A lot of other food, it has trans fat or too much salt, too much sugar. Can we find anything good to eat? Maybe. Let's try something organic. But even here you have to be careful. Some organic food might be too old, perhaps almost rotting. Some of it might have other problems with it. You have to see how it was grown. Was organic fertilizer used? Well, it might sound good, organic fertilizer, until you realize what it is. Cow manure, horse manure, and in some countries, people manure. Do we really want the nasty brown waste being used to grow our food? I don't know. Sometimes they use toxic sludge, just kind of sewage, and just spread it out on the crops and let them grow. Perhaps that's even practiced here in the United States. We gotta check what we're eating. And of course it gets harder and harder to do. And then there's seafood, which is often mislabeled, deceptively labeled. Perhaps labeled as a more expensive fish when it's a cheaper fish. Perhaps the fish itself is processed. Oh no, it's a farmed fish. Farmed fish. fish grown, raised in small areas. Perhaps an area of the ocean, but it's netted off. And the fish, there's thousands of them all on top of each other. And they're just pooping on each other, and so on and so on. And they don't have much room to swim. A lot of farm-raised fish are raised under adverse conditions. As I said, too many fish in a small area. Perhaps not enough fresh water irrigated in or flushed in. Perhaps the water gets stagnant and contaminated with too much food and waste. I don't know. A lot of times it's not good. Of course, if you want wild-caught seafood, well, you often have to pay more. And can we afford it? Who knows? But we keep trying. Even finding good bread can be difficult. It seems like finding any kind of good food is a real uphill battle. Well, good luck with your search. Hopefully you'll find something good and nutritious. Well, let's move on. There's lots more unfamiliar things to embrace. Friends. Yeah, this is probably the most difficult one of all. And perhaps critical for you, especially if you're lonely. But, as I said, it might be difficult because you're shy and tentative. You're afraid you'll meet the wrong person. You're afraid something awful might happen. So you avoid meeting people. And then, as time goes on, with meeting less people, well, then it becomes harder to meet people. You don't know what to say. You feel awkward. You feel out of place. Perhaps you're always used to your friend or family member being with you to help you along. Well, sometimes you gotta go at it alone. Sometimes it's better to do it that way anyway. Think about it. At least you might have more freedom of choice. But, of course, you have to be careful. Listen to your instincts. Sometimes things aren't right, and you gotta back out of a relationship. Well, stick up for yourself. If it's not right, it's not right. And it's time to stop seeing that person and move on to someone else. Have confidence in yourself. After all, confidence is competence, as I say. So, if you feel you could do it, you probably can do it. Often that is the case. So, same with meeting people. Sure, you might not think you're very good at conversation, or you might not think you have much to talk about, but once you start talking to someone, well, perhaps you'll discover you do have something to say. You just have to give it a try. And if you goof off, you say something stupid, or you can't even think of anything to say at all, don't be too discouraged. Sure, you might be embarrassed, but we all make mistakes. Just pick up the pieces and try again next time, and maybe things will go better. We learn from our mistakes. Over time, we get better. We just got to have faith in ourselves, and faith that God or whoever will help us. Sometimes we could get help Well, from who knows who, from strangers, from a friend who shows up out of nowhere, or whatever. Often I notice that myself. Sometimes when I need help, well, it shows up somehow. Help is on the way. Well, once we have some new friends, well, maybe it's time for new activities. Perhaps trying a new hobby, seeing if you like doing something. Sure, this is important. It is important because it will give us something to look forward to. And it might help us learn and develop. So be looking for those new activities and hobbies. Something you could enjoy. Something where you could teach yourself and learn. You could hone a new skill. Perhaps playing a new musical instrument. Perhaps learning how to draw or paint. Perhaps doing other things, such as a new sport or something like that. I guess with me, well, I like hitting the trail. It always seems like there's adventure just around the bend, something interesting. And if not, at least I get my exercise in. Sure, you gotta keep moving. You gotta keep walking. You gotta fight off old age by being young, by doing things that young people do. You have to keep active, in shape, sure, and motivated and happy. Always have something to look forward to. Sure, so you have to plan out your activities so that will be the case. And you have to find new friends so you'll have someone interesting to hang out with. Sure, all of this is important. And then we got to do research. Well, sure, that's part of embracing the unfamiliar too. Learning new things. Yeah, I know it might be difficult, but sure, you just got to somehow wrap your head around it. Whether it's from learning more math or perhaps learning a new language or learning history or science. Learn something. Sure, mathematics might seem boring, algebra, calculus, but they can be useful, so perhaps you should learn them anyway. Sure, educate yourself, learn new things, learn analytical thinking and logic, so you can figure out what's going on with incomplete data, incomplete information. You might be able to put the pieces together and figure out the likely scenario. Sure, it just takes analysis, logic, and statistics. We just gotta think it through and be ready to adapt. We have to be ready to learn new things. And we gotta keep trying. For the more we know, the more we can help ourselves and help others. Sure, we want to do all of that. That gives life meaning, helping ourselves and helping others. We can make each other happy. That's what God wants. God wants happy people, not sad people. God doesn't want us suffering all the time. No. God wants us to enjoy ourselves. We are part of God. If we enjoy ourselves, well, perhaps God enjoys himself or herself. We just gotta figure out how to get more happiness and joy into our life. And that often involves embracing the unfamiliar. So we continue on. We continue on learning and doing new things. We keep on embracing the unfamiliar. Now it's time for my mother's son. Well, I guess there's two of us. There's me and my brother. Well, of course, my four sisters too. Unfortunately, my brother passed away in 1999. One of my sisters died in 2011. So instead of 6 of us, there's only 4 of us. Me and my 3 sisters. Well, I'm still my mother's son, even though my mother is no longer with me. Unfortunately, she passed away in early 2021. But I'm still her son. I still have her influence. Sure, she still helps me out in many ways. I guess all starting when I was a little kid with my marginal autism, which might have been a little worse back then. And so sometimes I would have temper tantrums. And it was difficult for me to focus on something because I was always in my own little world. Sure. And sometimes I would obsess about something, like having a balloon, and I just have to have a balloon, or whatever it might be. And then the balloon would pop and I would cry. And then I might get another one. Anyway, so my mom helped me. She helped teach me when I was young.
Casey Waters Show. Producer, Casey Waters. Graphic editing, Judson Laird. Please note our new email address, CaseyWaters2 at CaseyWaters.com.